My name is Natalie Cruz. I'm 29 years old, and what I thought would be the happiest day of my life turned into the most expensive lesson about in-laws I could have imagined. For 3 years, I was with my boyfriend, Liam. He's 27. We started out like something from a streaming drama. Late-night drives, shared playlists, whispered plans about our future. A year ago, when he proposed, I honestly thought I'd won the relationship lottery. Liam's family looked picture perfect from the outside. His mom, Connie, the classic hostess who never let anyone's glass go empty. His dad, Frank, a big-shouldered construction contractor who could fix anything and always had a story ready. And then there was his younger brother, Devin, 24, the so-called visionary of the family. That's the polite word they used. The real word should have been problem. Things started to crack 4 months before the wedding. We were sitting at Liam's parents' dining table, talking about details, when Liam dropped it like it was nothing. "Devin's going to be your best man, right?" He didn't ask. He stated it. I blinked. "I already asked Raj," I said. "He's been planning this with me for months." Liam's jaw tightened. Connie gave me a look like I'd just insulted her cooking. "Devin is his only brother," she said. "It would mean everything to him." Frank chimed in with his deep, rumbling voice. "You want to start this marriage with family unity, don't you?" My stomach twisted. I loved Raj. He'd seen me through breakups, job changes, family drama. We'd been friends since middle school. I had already told him he'd be my best man, and he had cried. But now Liam's eyes were glistening, and Connie's voice turned sharp. "It's selfish not to include Devin in a meaningful way." I tried to push back, but the guilt piled on fast. Liam's shoulders slumped, and he whispered, "He's my only sibling, Nat. Please." So I caved. I called Raj that night, pacing my apartment, fingers shaking. "You're going to kill me," I said. "They want Devin to be my best man." There was a pause. Then Raj exhaled slowly. "So I'm demoted to groomsman?" "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "It's family pressure. They're making it a unity thing." He was quiet for a moment. "It's okay," he said finally. "I get it. Families are intense. I'll still be there for you." I should have heard what he wasn't saying. I should have listened when he said, half joking, "Just don't let that guy touch anything valuable." Because Devin was a character. He called himself an entrepreneur, but he didn't have a job I could actually explain. 1 month he was pitching an app that revolutionized grocery shopping. The next he was talking about opening a sneaker reselling empire. All of it needed just a small investment from whoever was unlucky enough to be in the room. He drove a leased BMW he could barely keep up with, wore designer clothes, and yet somehow never had money for gas without asking someone to spot him. Everyone laughed it off. "That's just Devin," Connie would say, ruffling his hair like he was still 12. The bachelor party was my next warning. Devin insisted on planning it himself. "I've got connections," he said, winking. "We'll make it a night you'll never forget." That part was true. It was unforgettable, just not in the way he meant. He took us to a high-end club in the city, ordered bottle service like we were celebrities, and kept calling for more. When the bill came, it was $3,400. Devin patted his pockets and then froze. Nat," he said, laughing weakly. "You're not going to believe this. I forgot my wallet." My heart dropped. Raj looked at me, then at the bill, then at Devin. "Convenient," he muttered. Everyone else stared at me, waiting. Liam's expression was trapped somewhere between embarrassment and expectation. So I paid. I told myself it was a one-time thing. Future family, right? Then, as we were all leaving, Devin started hyping up the casino nearby. "I'm feeling lucky tonight," he said. "We could double the money, make this an investment." "Nat, you in?" I shook my head so hard my earrings rattled. "Absolutely not." We bailed, but the damage to my savings was done. At least that's what I thought. I had no idea the real hit was still coming. The rings were the pride of the whole wedding. Liam and I had picked them out together. Or, more accurately, he had insisted on a very specific boutique jeweler he'd found on social media. Platinum bands, custom engraving inside, Subtle details that made them feel like heirlooms. Total cost, $10,000. My entire work bonus and a big chunk of my savings. His ring was beautiful. Mine was a $7,000 sparkle on my finger that made my stomach flip every time I looked at it. We joked that we were wearing a down payment on our hands. Wedding day. Ceremony at 2 in the afternoon. At 10 in the morning, I was in the hotel room where I'd stayed the night before with my makeup half done, robe still on, hair in curlers. Raj was there making stupid faces in the mirror to calm me down. I should have been nervous about my vows. Instead, I was nervous about something else. Devin had the rings. Best man duty. Basic, simple, idiot-proof. Or so you'd think. At 10:15, there was a frantic knock at the door. Raj opened it, and Devin stumbled in, pale and sweating. "Nat," he said, voice shaky. "We have a problem." My blood turned to ice. "What problem?" "The rings," he said. "I can't find the rings." For a second, everything went silent in my head, like the volume got turned down on the world. Then my heart started pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. "What do you mean you can't find them?" I asked. "I had them last night," he insisted, "in the little velvet box. I put them in the hotel safe at exactly 11:47 p.m. This morning they're gone. I've checked everywhere." That time stuck in my brain. 11:47 p.m. Nobody remembers a time that precisely unless they're rehearsing the story. Raj left to check Devin's car. I called the bar we'd been at. Liam called me, already crying, telling me his whole family was in crisis mode. Devin paced the room, hands in his hair, muttering about how he'd fix this. That's when another part of my brain kicked in, the one that made me good at my job. I work in IT security. My whole world is patterns, lies, and evidence. And Devin's story had holes big enough to drive his BMW through. First, there was that weirdly precise time. Then there was his solution. He kept suggesting we could just grab some replacement bands for the ceremony and figure out the rings later, like we were talking about plastic props instead of $10,000 of jewelry. And 2 days before, he'd been asking way too many questions about their value. "So, like, how much are these worth again?" he'd said, leaning back on Liam's couch. 10 grand total? His eyes had practically lit up. "You could probably get like 5 easy from a pawn shop." In the middle of the chaos, while everyone else spiraled, I did something no one expected. I opened my phone, pulled up Google Maps, and searched for pawn shops within 10 miles. Then I started calling them one by one. The 4th shop picked up and confirmed it. "Yeah, we had a guy come in this morning with platinum wedding bands. Engraved." "Why?" My throat went dry. "I'll be there in 15 minutes, I said. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I grabbed my purse, slipped on flats, and left the hotel with my heart hammering against my ribs. When I got to the pawn shop, the guy behind the counter pulled out a familiar velvet box. Inside were our rings, our initials, our wedding date engraved exactly as we'd requested. He laid a receipt on the counter. My eyes landed on this signature and the photocopy of the ID taped to it. Devin. He'd pawned our rings at 8:30 a.m. for $4,500. I felt something inside me go cold and very, very clear. I paid to get the rings back, their profit tacked on top, all while watching the security footage the owner pulled up. There was Devin on screen, haggling for more money, gesturing wildly with his hands. No panic, no fear, just greed. On the drive back to the venue, the world outside my windshield blurred. My makeup was still half done. My hair was pinned up for a ceremony that suddenly felt like a lie. When I walked into the bridal suite, everyone froze. Liam was there now, in his suit, eyes red. Connie and Frank hovered near him, whispering. Bridesmaids in pastel dresses clustered in the corner. "Natalie," Liam said, stepping toward me. "Did you find them?" I held up the velvet box. "Yeah," I said. "I found them." He pulled me into a hug, relief pouring off him. "Oh, my God. Where were they?" I pulled back and met his eyes. "At a pawn shop on Memorial Drive." The room went so quiet I could hear the AC humming. Connie's hand flew to her mouth. Frank's face darkened. Liam frowned. "What? How did they get there?" I opened my purse and took out the receipt. "Your brother pawned them this morning," I said. "Here's the paperwork. Here's his signature, here's his ID, and they have security footage. Liam stared at the receipt like it was written in another language. This has to be a mistake, he said weakly. Maybe someone stole them from him and... No, I cut in. He did this. On purpose. That's when Devin walked in, fake concern plastered across his face. Any luck finding them? He asked. Frank stood up slowly, his hands curling into fists. You, he said, voice low. He shoved the receipt into Devin's chest. Devin's face went from tan to paper white. I was going to get them back, he babbled. I just needed quick cash. There's this guy who owes me money, and I thought if I doubled it... Frank grabbed him by the collar. You stole from your brother's wedding, he roared. From her wedding. I watched them, the man who raised Liam and the brother he'd sworn he needed to honor. And in that moment, surrounded by flowers and perfectly arranged chairs and a white dress hanging on the door, I realized something awful. The rings weren't the real problem. They were just the first thing he'd been trusted with that he finally got caught taking. I turned to Liam. We need to talk, I said. My voice didn't even shake. We left the stunned bridal party and walked into an empty room down the hall, the muffled sounds of chaos behind us. I shut the door, turned to the man I thought I was going to marry, and told him the truth. I wasn't sure I could walk down that aisle anymore. When I closed that door behind us in the empty side room, I could still hear Connie crying and bridesmaids whispering down the hall. Liam paced once, then turned to me with wild eyes. Nat, we can fix this, he said. You got the rings back. We can still get married. We have a few hours. I stared at him. Your brother pawned our wedding rings to gamble, Liam, on our wedding day. He flinched, but his next words made my skin crawl. He's sick. He has a problem. We need to support him. There it was. Support. The magic word that in his family meant ignore, excuse, and enable. You want to pretend this didn't happen? I asked quietly. I want to marry you today like we planned, he insisted. We'll cut Devin out of it. Raj can be best man again. We'll move forward. The casual way he said it, like his brother hadn't just sold pieces of our future for quick cash, made something in me harden. Your dad knew about his gambling, didn't he? I asked. Liam hesitated. His eyes shifted away for a fraction of a second. He knew Devin had some issues, he said. But he's been trying to get better. Your mom knew. Your cousins knew. Everyone knew except me, and you still pushed to make him my best man and gave him $10,000 worth of jewelry. His shoulders slumped. I didn't think he'd actually do this, he whispered. You hoped he wouldn't, I corrected. There's a difference. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out calm. Liam, if this is what your family does when they know someone is dangerous with money, what happens when it's our joint savings? Our kid's college fund? Are they going to tell me to be supportive when he steals from that too? His jaw clenched. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said, is that you knew there was a fire in the house and still handed him a box of matches, and all my silence stretched between us. In that silence, I could see the rest of my life with this family. Constant crises, excuses, guilt trips. Me always being the unreasonable one for wanting boundaries. I can't do this, I said finally. Not today. Maybe not ever. Liam's face crumpled. Liam said, Nat, please. We have 200 guests waiting downstairs. My parents will be humiliated. My mom's already having a breakdown. Then you should probably start making some calls, I said. I took off my engagement ring, the platinum band that had felt like a promise, and dropped it gently into his palm. I'm not walking down that aisle. Leaving the venue felt like stepping out of a movie set. The flowers, the music, the carefully arranged chairs, all of it blurred as Raj walked me to his car. We out? He asked quietly. I swallowed hard and nodded. We're out. He didn't say I told you so. He just drove. I didn't go home. I went to Raj's apartment, kicked off my heels in his entryway, and collapsed onto his couch, still half in bridal hair and makeup. At some point, I turned off my phone and let numbness swallow me. For 3 hours, there was nothing but silence and the dull ache in my chest. When I finally turned my phone back on, it exploded. 70 plus missed calls, over 100 texts, dozens of voicemails. Liam's messages came in a flood. Some were pleading, "Please come back. We can fix this. We can just have a small ceremony." Some were angry. "You're a coward for running. You humiliated me. You ruined everything." Connie's texts were a mix of guilt and rage. "You destroyed my daughter's big day. You embarrassed our family in front of everyone. How could you walk out over a mistake?" Frank's messages tried to sound reasonable. "Let's talk like adults. I'll handle Devin. Don't throw away 4 years over this." And then, of course, there was Devin. "You're overreacting. I was going to pay you back with interest. You didn't have to make this a big thing, as if pawning someone's wedding rings for gambling money on the morning of their wedding was a minor misunderstanding." The most interesting messages, though, were from friends and cousins on Liam's side, people I barely knew or had only seen at holidays. They slipped into my inbox with quiet fury. "You did the right thing. He's done this before. He stole $5,000 from his grandmother's funeral fund. He opened credit cards in our cousin's name and maxed them out. He sold his aunt's jewelry while he was house sitting." Each new story hit like a punch. Every time, the pattern was the same. Devin did something awful. The family scrambled to cover it up, and then they all agreed to pretend it was getting better. They had handed me a ticking bomb, called it family, and acted shocked when it exploded. 3 days later, I went back to my apartment to grab fresh clothes. I had almost forgotten Liam still had a key until I opened the door and found him sitting at my kitchen table, elbows on his knees, eyes hollow. "We need to talk," he said. He looked rough, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, suit jacket nowhere in sight. "I've been thinking," he started. "You were right about some things. Devin needs real help, professional help. I'm going to get him into a program." "Okay," I said carefully. "And I understand why you were upset," he added. "Upset," I repeated. "Liam, your brother stole our wedding rings." "I know," he said quickly. "I know. But can't we move past this? Start over? We can do a smaller wedding, just our families, no Devin involved." "It's not just about Devin," I said. "Then what is it about?" His voice sharpened. "It's about the fact that you all knew he had a problem and still put him in a position to steal from us," I said. "Your dad wasn't surprised. Your mom went straight into excuse mode. No one was shocked he'd done it. They were just upset he got caught." He went quiet. "So that's it?" he asked finally. 4 years? Just gone?" Pain twisted in my chest. "I love you," I said, "but I can't marry you into that. I can't spend my life fighting not just your brother's addiction, but your whole family's denial. And right now, you're still more worried about keeping the peace than protecting the person you were about to marry." His eyes filled with tears, then anger flashed through them. "You're choosing to bail when things get tough," he said. "That says more about you than about my family." He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. For a moment, I almost ran after him. Almost. A week later, security from my office called. "There's a man in the lobby asking for you," they said. "He says he's family. He's agitated." I went downstairs and found Devin pacing near the front desk. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't," I replied. "Leave, or I'll have security escort you out." His eyes were bloodshot. "You ruined my life," he snapped. "Dad fired me from the company, kicked me out of the apartment. Mom won't stop crying. Liam won't talk to me. All because you had to turn this into some big drama." I stared at him. "I ruined your life?" I asked. "You stole my wedding rings." "I was going to pay you back," he insisted. "But you had to make a scene." "And you're facing consequences," I said. "That's not my fault." Security stepped closer. Devin glared at me one last time and stormed out. Later that evening, I found long, jagged scratches down the side of my car in the parking garage. The repair cost $300. I filed a police report and added it to the growing mental file labeled, "Reasons I'm glad I didn't marry into this." Then came the social media posts. Liam wrote a long, dramatic paragraph about how I had abandoned him at the altar and couldn't handle real life or family struggles. Some of his distant friends bought the story and flooded my inbox with judgment. The ones who knew what actually happened called him out in the comments, but the damage was done. Connie escalated things further by calling my mother. She told her that I was mentally unstable, prone to violent outbursts, and that Liam was genuinely afraid for his safety. My mom, a retired teacher who cries at dog food commercials, called me in a panic. I told her everything, every detail I'd held back before. By the time I finished, she was furious in a way I had never heard. She called Connie back, and whatever she said, it ended with Connie never contacting our side of the family again. I wish that had been the end of it, but then the bills started coming in. Venue, catering, flowers. $35,000 worth of wedding that never happened. Everything was in both our names, and Liam's family made it very clear they didn't intend to pay their half. That was the moment I realized I needed more than just moral support and angry texts from cousins. I needed a lawyer. My lawyer didn't even blink when I dropped the folder of documents on her desk. Photos of the pawn receipt, a copy of Devin's ID, screenshots of Liam's posts, messages from Connie calling me unstable, the police report for my keyed car. "They want you to pay for the whole wedding?" she asked. "They're out of their minds." And she drafted a concise but devastating letter. Either Liam's family paid half of the wedding bill, or we would pursue criminal charges against Devin for theft, plus civil damages for the full ring value and the vandalized car. For the first time since the wedding disaster, I slept well. Within 3 days, Frank wired over every penny they owed. It was almost funny. They had spent months telling me to support family, but the second a lawyer threatened the family finances, suddenly personal responsibility mattered. After that, everything quieted. I focused on therapy, which my therapist said was less relationship recovery and more post-family trauma stabilization. I slowly re-entered normal life. I returned the things we'd bought for the wedding, got partial refunds, lost money on deposits, cried when I found the honeymoon itinerary in my drawer, and tried to rebuild my routines. Raj stayed glued to my side the whole time. A month passed, then another. I started dating casually, nothing serious. Coffee here, a movie there, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself. That's when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail, but when I listened later, it was Amy, one of Liam's cousins, the one who'd warned me about Devin's past. "Nat, you need to know something. Devin's in the hospital." My stomach tightened. I called her back. "What happened?" "Those guys he owed money to. They found him," she said. "He has a broken arm, cracked ribs, concussion." I covered my mouth. Oh my God. "He was trying to pay them off using money he stole from his new job at an electronics store. They caught him and fired him. He couldn't pay. They didn't take it well." I closed my eyes, imagining the chaos, the panic, the pain. He had been spiraling for years, and his family kept pretending one good week meant he was healed. "Why are you telling me?" I asked. Amy hesitated. "Because Liam's telling people it's your fault." My heart dropped. "What?" "He's saying if you hadn't destroyed the wedding and gotten Devin fired from Frank's company, he would have had enough to pay the guys back." I didn't even have words. Amy sighed. "I know, it's ridiculous, but some of the family believes it." "Of course they do," I said, bitterness curling into my voice. "There's more," she added, her voice getting tight. "You should hear it from me before it gets back to you." "What?" "Liam's engaged." I laughed. Out loud. Too loudly. "It's been 2 months." "To Tessa," she said. "His ex-girlfriend, the one from before you." That explained a lot. "Let me guess," I said. "Her family has money." 3 restaurants, Amy confirmed quietly. Her parents helped them put a deposit on a new place. "Perfect," I muttered. "He found someone whose family doesn't come with a walking felony attached." But Amy wasn't done. "Frank lost the business," she said softly. I sat up straight. "What?" "He'd been secretly taking out loans for years to cover Devin's debts, mortgaging equipment, pushing payments. When he had to pay half the wedding costs, too, it broke him." I felt something inside me twist, sharp and painful. "He couldn't make payroll," Amy whispered. "Lost contracts. Filed bankruptcy last week." I stared at the wall. This family had been a carefully painted portrait. Now it was peeling to reveal rot underneath. "Does Connie still blame me?" I asked. Amy laughed sadly. "She blames everyone but Devin. And yes, you're still on her list, of course." "Nat," Amy's voice softened, "I just thought you should know, in case they try something." They tried something. A week later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Frank stood there. Except he didn't look like the solid, unshakable contractor I'd known. His shoulders were slumped. His face was tired, hollow, defeated. "Can I talk to you?" he asked quietly. I hesitated, then I stepped aside. He came in, sat on my couch, and stared at his hands for a long moment before speaking. "I need to apologize," he said. His voice cracked on the word apologize. "I pushed you to let Devin be best man," I insisted. "I thought giving him responsibility might force him to grow up." His hands shook. "Instead, I put you in danger. I put everyone in danger." I sat across from him, arms folded tightly. "We all knew he had problems," Frank said. "But I thought if I kept paying, kept fixing it, kept shielding him, eventually he'd get better, or at least stop dragging us down." His eyes lifted to mine, full of something broken. "Now I've lost my business. I don't know if my wife and I will make it another year, and my son is lost." I swallowed. "Where's Devin now?" Frank exhaled, long and shaky. "Don't know, don't care." Silence settled between us, heavy, sad, strange. "Liam's engaged again," I said finally, because part of me wondered if Frank knew. His mouth twisted. A bitter, almost amused sound escaped him. "3 weeks after reconnecting with her," he said, "and Connie's thrilled. Says she always liked Tessa better." I blinked. "I told Liam he was making a mistake," Frank continued. "Told him he's rebounding, but Connie kept saying, 'Family sticks together.'" He shook his head. "Except when it doesn't." He finished his beer, set it down on the table, and stood up. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You deserve better." Then he left. I sat there long after the door closed, staring at the spot he'd been sitting in. I felt bad for him, truly, but not enough to forget how he'd enabled every single domino that eventually crushed them all. It was almost peaceful for a few weeks after Frank's visit. I went to work, saw friends, kept dating casually, and tried not to think about the mess I had narrowly escaped. If anything, seeing Frank's downfall, watching a whole family unravel under the weight of secrets they refused to face, only confirmed that I had made the right choice by walking away. Then the unknown number called. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in my gut told me to answer. "Hello?" I said. For a moment, there was only static. Then I heard her voice. "Nat?" It was Liam's mother, Connie. My whole body tensed. "This isn't a good time," I said. I wanted you to know what happened," she spluttered. "Devin got arrested." Despite everything, my stomach dropped. "Arrested for what?" "He broke into our house," she said, her voice shaking. "Stole my jewelry. Your father's tools. Tried to pawn everything. The neighbors saw him jump the fence. Called the police. They caught him." A dozen emotions hit me at once. Anger, sadness, resignation, and a faint, surprising sense of relief. "I'm sorry," I said quietly, and I meant it. "He's facing 3 to 5 years, Connie whispered. "Frank won't speak to me. He says I caused this, that I enabled him, that if I hadn't insisted on giving him chances—" She trailed off, her voice cracked. For the first time ever, she didn't sound like the queen of guilt-tripping. She sounded like a mother shattered into pieces. "I have to go," I said gently. "I hope you both get the help you need." I hung up. 2 minutes later, another unknown number flashed on my screen. I exhaled, already exhausted, but answered anyway. "Nat?" It was Liam. My chest tightened. He sounded hollow. "What do you need, Liam?" I asked. He started, then stopped. I heard him breathe in shakily. Tessa broke off the engagement. I closed my eyes. What happened? Devin showed up to our engagement party, Liam said, high or drunk or something. He started asking people for money. Her parents were there. He caused a scene. A humorless laugh burst from him. They told her if she married me, they'd cut her off. She ended it the next day. I leaned back on my couch, staring at the ceiling. I'm sorry that happened, I said. I really am. Nat, you were right, he whispered. About everything. About my family. About my mom. About Devin. About how we all made excuses. Liam, I said softly, I tried telling you. I know, he said quickly. I know. I couldn't see it. I kept thinking loyalty meant protecting him, but all it did was destroy everything else. There was a long pause. I wanted to apologize, he said finally, for not standing by you, for blaming you, for posting what I posted, for letting my mom drag your name. I swallowed. Thank you. Are you happy? He asked. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I am. And it was true. I was dating someone new, Jake. He was steady, calm, warm, the kind of man who listened more than he talked. His family's biggest drama was arguing about where to eat dinner on Sundays. After what I'd lived through, that felt like a miracle. Good, Liam said, voice breaking. You deserve that. I hope you find it too, I replied. I hope you all get the help you need. Yeah, he whispered. Goodbye, Nat. Goodbye, Liam. And just like that, the last thread tying me to that entire ordeal snapped free. After I hung up, I sat in silence for a while. Not sad, not angry, just relieved. The next morning, I met Jake for brunch. His mom insisted we stay for dessert. His dad asked me about work. No tension, no secrets, no explosive chaos waiting to detonate under the surface. A few weeks later, I finally took the rings, the same rings Devin had pawned, and sold them. I used the money to take a trip with Jake. We chose Iceland. Something about a place full of fire and ice felt appropriate. Standing under the northern lights, wrapped in Jake's jacket, I realized something that made me laugh quietly into the cold air. Devin stealing those rings had saved me. If he hadn't done it, I might have married into a family that would have chewed me up over the years. I might have spent my life trying to fix people who refuse to fix themselves. Sometimes the worst moment of your life is really the beginning of your freedom, and sometimes the person who cuts you deepest is the one who frees you from an even deeper wound. So to anyone listening who sees the red flags in their relationship, anyone with in-laws who excuse terrible behavior, anyone whose partner prioritizes keeping the peace over protecting you, listen to me. Run. Because when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.